Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jessica Desardin, and I am a program coordinator in the MCW Office of Community Engagement. Welcome to the October edition of our monthly series, CE Spotlight. Please note that this session is being recorded. I'd like to begin with a statement from the Office of Community Engagement. We wish to acknowledge the Indigenous people who are past and present stewards of the land on which we pursue our just cause of a healthy community for everyone. To our audience members, please be sure you are muted throughout the presentation. We encourage everyone to use the chat bar freely to share comments or post questions for our guest. We will be monitoring your questions throughout this session, so feel free to send any as they come to you. Please look for information about upcoming guests on our CE website. You can find our series webpage by Googling MCW CE Spotlight. This monthly series features community partners and the important work they are doing for and with the community. We highlight their goals, motivations, and accomplishments, and the ways they have partnered with people and programs at MCW. Today, we are deeply honored to have LaNelle Ramey as our featured guest. We would also like to thank Dr. Leslie Ruffalo, who is serving as our facilitator today. At this time, I would like to introduce our Acting Senior Associate Dean for Community Engagement, Dr. Stacy Young, who will say a few words about LaNelle's important work for the community and his partnership with MCW. Dr. Young.
Thank you, Jessica. It is my pleasure to say a few introductory words about Mr. LaNelle Ramey. LaNelle currently serves as the Executive Director for MENTOR Greater Milwaukee. MENTOR Greater Milwaukee works to increase mentoring relationships through capacity building of existing mentoring organizations. It also builds capacity by matching caring adults with children in need through safe, effective mentoring programs, providing professional development, mentor recruitment, and technical assistance. Before joining MENTOR Greater Milwaukee, LaNelle was a founding director of the Department of Black and Latino Male Achievement for Milwaukee Public Schools, where he worked to ensure Black and Latino male students were intentionally a part of the district's educational equity strategies for academic improvement and overall life outcomes. LaNelle has been in the youth development profession for over 25 years, working with various nonprofit and community-based organizations who serve youth, such as the New Concept Self-Development Center and the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Milwaukee. He is a former adjunct professor at Cardinal Stritch University, where he was also a graduate of the African American Leadership Program. LaNelle also sits on several community boards, including the American Red Cross, Fire and Police Commission, and Milwaukee County Health Board. He is a proud Milwaukee Public Schools alumni, graduate of Marquette University with a bachelor's degree in pre-law and criminology and a master's degree in public administration. LaNelle is a proud father and grandfather and happily married to Danielle Ramey. Thank you, LaNelle, for being our featured spotlight guest for today. I would now like to introduce today's facilitator, Dr. Leslie Ruffalo. Dr. Ruffalo is an associate professor and the co-director of medical student education in the Department of Family and Community Medicine at the Medical College of Wisconsin. Dr. Ruffalo also holds faculty appointments in the Office of Community Engagement, the Kern Institute, and the Graduate School, where she is one of the founding faculty members of the Doctorate in Public Health program. Dr. Ruffalo defines herself as a community-engaged health researcher and educator and has worked extensively with neighborhoods and communities across the state of Wisconsin. Her research philosophy is to apply community-engaged research principles to answer research questions that are important to the community. She has applied this research approach to veteran health, food security, school-based health and wellness, family caregiving, and rural health. Dr. Ruffalo, thank you for serving as our facilitator today. I turn the mic over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Young. And thank you to all that have participated and shown up today. It's so great to be with you on this weird tornado day, right? I don't know who else had their day disrupted with the announcement of a tornado warning, but it was that was different, right? Something different in our day. So I'm so pleased to be here with all of you and couldn't be more happy that I get to facilitate this conversation with LaNelle, who just absolutely embodies what we mean by community engagement and has been just such a valued partner of the Medical College of Wisconsin for so many years. And I know a valued partner among many of you who are in attendance today. I have personally known LaNelle for almost a decade now, where we've had a longstanding history of collaborating through his work with Milwaukee Public Schools, the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Milwaukee, and most recently with Mentor Greater Milwaukee. And so as we dive into today's session, to kind of do a little bit of an icebreaker, a little bit of a warm up here, I'm going to turn it over to LaNelle and just offer up a let's get to know LaNelle Ramey section of today's presentation. And so LaNelle, if you could just share a little bit with our group here today. I know many people on today's call know a little bit about you, but share a little bit about your background, where you grew up, how you came to do the work that you do today. What are the things that are really important to you in your personal life, your professional life? Yeah, let's just get to know you a little bit.
Sure. Thank you, Leslie. First of all, I did Michael Jackson because, first of all, I'm showing my age, but nonetheless, 1986, I was at the concert when he was at the Mecca. And I remember when Michael Jackson came, I was with my mom and my sister, and I'm not going to tell you I cried, but I cried, but nonetheless, so that's a little bit of fun fact, right? Like, so who am I? Who is LaNelle? Born and raised Milwaukeean, Heartbeats Milwaukee, born and bred, proud graduate of the Riverside University High School, 1615 East Locust Avenue, just in case someone needs to know that, right? Proud father. My wife and I together actually have 8 children and 4 grandchildren. And so those, my family is the center of my life. Without them, I'm not who I am. Professionally speaking, I'll tell this quick fun fact. While working at Time Insurance Company, I was laid off. This was in 1994, I want to say. I was forced into youth development. I didn't know at first. I was like, I don't know if I want to work with kids or do this kid thing, right? And I tell you what, I got forced into it because I had to find a job. Like I told you, I had a lot of kids, right? I had to pay for everything. But here's the deal. I loved it. I fell in love, and I started really as a paraprofessional in Milwaukee Public Schools. But really what jump-started my career is while I was under the leadership of none other than June Perry at New Concept Self-Development Center. And it was June who really showed me what it meant to be, from a professional sense, a servant leader. And I knew right away that I wanted to be like June, right? I wanted to be this executive director, president, CEO of a nonprofit that has impact and influence and all of this great stuff, right? Even though I can never measure up to the work June did over the years, but that's actually where I started. And so I've been blessed and fortunate along the way to work for some great organizations. I spent a chunk of my career with Boys and Girls Club of Greater Milwaukee, and where I was almost 14 years. And then MPS as Black and Latino Male Achievement, and now Mentor. I am a hip hop junkie, so music is in me. Like, I was the kid who was spitting on the concrete with the cardboard on his head, all that stuff. That was me. My daddy always used to say, you're gonna break your neck. And then, you know how back in the day, they'd say something like that. And he said, you're gonna break your neck, so don't walk in this house with no broken neck. No, if I break my neck, Dad, I can't walk in the house. That's not gonna happen, right? But I'm a hip hop junkie to the core. I love hip hop, old school hip hop, new hip hop. Other than that, golf is my pastime. I love to play golf, and a couple of my sons now have picked up the game, and I hate to admit it, they're better than me, way better than me. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I see some names and faces on here. I just got to give shout outs. I got to shout out Danae Davis. Danae is like that sister, like when you like, I got to talk to somebody. Danae, I texted her, Danae, please help me, walk me through this. And if you don't know Danae, Danae's a hugger, a lover, and I love you person, right? Like that person that makes you feel like chocolate chip cookies and milk, that's Danae, right? Like, that's the energy she gives you, right? And then I got to shout out my man, Kevin, Milwaukee Succeeds, one of our great partners. So, but again, I'm excited to be here. I am honored to be spotlighted, even though this won't be about me. It's probably going to be about Mentor, because I'm so happy about the work we're doing. Betty Hill is my program director, who I tell people all the time, she really does all the work. I just get to be the pretty face. But no, I'm absolutely ecstatic to be here. And Leslie, like you said, we've been kind of partnering so long together that I'm glad you guys chose us to be here today. So that's a little fun fact about me and who I am and how I got to be where I'm at today.
Perfect, LaNelle. That's a great introduction to who you are, who you are beyond just the Mentor Greater Milwaukee leader. And I love that you call out Danae as you know, chocolate chip cookies and milk. Danae, I think I need to spend time with you and learn more about you, because I like to be around people that make me think of chocolate chip cookies and milk. And if I had to think about how I would describe you, LaNelle, you know, being around you is just, it's just energy lifting, and it's just positivity and just abundance and authenticity. And I think I've always appreciated about my interactions with you, is just, there's such a backbone of sincerity about you that shines through, that you know you're getting the real deal with you, LaNelle, that what you say is what you mean. And so thank you for all that you do for our community. And we're really excited to highlight the work that Mentor Greater Milwaukee is doing. And so for some of you on our call today and in our session today, Mentor Greater Milwaukee might be an organization that you know a lot about. It might be an organization that you've heard about. It might be something that you don't know anything about. So I'm going to turn it over to LaNelle to just give us a really just very high level kind of brief introduction to his organization, and then we'll definitely have time for questions and comments and a deeper dive into how LaNelle thinks about community engagement and partnership work. So I believe that Jai is going to share his screen with us, and LaNelle is going to give us all just again that brief overview of his awesome organization.
Thank you, Leslie. And while he's bringing up the screen, I'll share this. As I told you, servant leadership I learned, of course, through June Perry. But one thing I can say, and Jai, you go to the next slide. I know I got a little music on here. I'm always trying to play music. I told you guys I'm a music junkie. This was some mellow music I had. But I actually learned being a servant leader through my mother. And a quick story about mom. My mom passed away 3 years ago now. But here's what was interesting. She was in corporate America for almost, wow, I want to say like 25 years. And then she decided enough and became a school teacher. So her second half of her career, so to speak, where she was actually a school teacher. So for me, she kind of planted this seed on kind of being a servant leader from up close and personal. So that's where I kind of got that from. So Mentor Greater Milwaukee, we are a two-person squad. We are dynamic duo, however you want to look at it, Batman, Robin, myself and Betty Hill. You know, we kind of run the show for the organization. Next slide for me, Jai. A little bit of, here's our mission. I like to tell people we're the connector in the mentoring space, right? Our job is really to make sure that we're building capacity, right? To helping making sure mentoring organizations are matching caring adults with children in need through safe and effective mentoring programs throughout Greater Milwaukee. Next slide for me. Here's a little history, little fun facts as Leslie kind of put out there, how we came to be here in Milwaukee. Interestingly enough, Mentor Greater Milwaukee is actually part of the affiliate Mentor, the National Mentoring Partnership, which has actually been in existence now nearly 30 years, okay? But here's how it all started. In 2016, at the time, Superintendent of MPS was Dr. Darian Driver, and the mayor was Tom Barrett. They heard about this mentor thing, right? They were like, this sounds interesting. But before we try to do something and bring that here, let's talk to the people in the field, i.e. other local existing mentoring programs, about what they think about this. And let's have a conversation, right? So alongside Public Policy Forum, they recruited 13 mentoring programs, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Club, Running Rebels, you know, just to name a few, right? And they got into this conversation about, here's what an affiliate would do. What do you all think? And basically, overwhelmingly, they all say, you know what, there's some unmet demand and we need to continue to do something to do that. So thus, we were born in 2017 through our, I call them our founding funders and partners, MPS, Milwaukee Bucks, in the city of Milwaukee. And so we all came together, and then in January of 2019, we formally launched Mentor Greater Milwaukee. Next slide. We have 4 main priorities. And here's the first one. Our main objective is how do we provide capacity building trainings, professional developments. I want to be very clear. This is for any and every organization, whether you serve 30,000 kids a year or you serve 3. If you say you're doing mentoring, our job is to make sure you have every tool in your toolbox to make sure you're going to be serving that young person at the highest level. And that's our most important thing, that there are qualified, trained programs who have qualified and trained mentors, right? And that's critical to us because here's the deal. There's a lot of people that think mentoring is certain things. We want to make sure everybody understands what mentoring is as a whole. So when we're working with our young kids, we're all on the same page. The second thing we do is saying, how do we have a wide variety of public and private stakeholders to increase the number of mentors? Always say, if you have a positive mindset, there is a space for you to be a mentor. And with that being said, we want to make sure that we're recruiting from every angle. Some people I always hear this, I'm not cool enough to be a mentor. I don't have a story to be a mentor. If you got to where you are today, you have a story. Because here's the deal. Mentoring isn't for the troubled kid. Mentoring is for every young person. And here's the deal. I told you I have a lot of kids. My oldest is 31. So in my mind, when I think young people, I'm thinking 25 and under, right? So when you're thinking about being a mentor, our job is to find a place for you as well as for the young people to have a place to go to. So next slide for me, Jai. Yep, backwards. Moonwalking, the Michael Jackson moonwalk. We moonwalked. There we go. One more. There we go. So the other thing is using data, right? So how do we collect data to find the gaps for where young people need mentorship the most? Let me give you an example of how we did that. 3 years ago, we started a partnership with Employ Milwaukee. The idea was that young people, we were hearing young people didn't have relationships at their job. They would go to work, they'll punch in, they'll do the job, they go home. Well, we came in and we started training the supervisors around developing workforce mentoring. What does that look like? When a young person comes to you and they're with you 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, that is an opportunity to connect with them on a relationship side. Not just say, here's your check, move that box, sweep that floor. We're talking about being able to connect, right? And be able to have young people have someone that they can trust will provide right support. And then finally, the last one that we have our priority is how do we have expand the public and private support and investment in mentoring through public awareness and advocacy. I want to be able to make sure that mentoring programs not only have the dollars that they have or the dollars that they need, but I want to be the cheerleader for every one of them. I want to make sure people understand I'm the advocate that is the rah, rah, rah mentoring works, right? So that's the role that Mentor Greater Milwaukee plays in supporting our mentoring programs throughout the greater Milwaukee community. So next slide for me. So one of the things that this is really quick. You can hit the slide a couple of times, Jai. There you go, right there. So here's the thing. There's 3 main pieces to being a good mentor. So when people are saying, I don't know, can I, should I? If you can do these 3 things, you can be a great mentor. 1, you have to be open and vulnerable. We can't be closed off to our young people. You got to be willing to share your story. And I always tell people this, please don't share the story of the now. Talk about what you went through to get to where you got. I tell young people all the time without shame, when I graduated, the best high school there was, Riverside University High School. In case y'all didn't hear me say it earlier, I'll say that again. But when I graduated, I had a 2.4 GPA. And in all accounts, I should have never went to Morehouse College or Marquette University. But I tell my journey about being a student and the struggles I had in high school and how I had to work to become better. So you have to be willing to share that story. And then finally, if you're going to be a mentor, you have to have commitment to cultural competency. And I want to be very transparent. I'm not just talking about racial and ethnic culture. I'm talking about age. I'm talking about your sex. I'm talking about how you identify, everything underneath the umbrella of culture. And if you can commit to these, you can make a great mentor, right? So just want to make sure we share that with everybody. Next slide for me, Jai. Just really quick, one of the things that makes us special, I like to say, is we actually have an online tool. So if you're interested in being a mentor, you can go to our website right now and type in MilwaukeeMentor.com. You can say, become a mentor. What this tool will do is share with you all the variety of mentoring programs in your zip code area, or as far as 25 miles out, right? Hit it again for me, Jai. And it tells you everything from what kind of mentoring programs are there. You know, it allows you to see how you as a mentor can select something that's near and dear to your heart. Because here, we don't want people jumping into mentoring in a program that doesn't fit who they are. We want them to fit into the program as much as fit into the young person's life. So that's what the mentoring recruitment tool is for us that we use. Again, you go right online to see how that works. Next slide for me, John. One more time. So we use what we call the elements of effective practice. So when you think about priority number one for us, this is the basic, this is our holy grail of training. When every mentoring program that we work with, we make sure they hear the same thing around these 6 critical elements. Whether you're training, you're screening, you're closing out the program, we make sure everyone hears the same thing. Again, building capacity, and regardless if you're serving 3 kids a year or 30,000, right? It's critical, it's really critical to be able to make sure that all programs understand what this is. Next slide for me, Jai. So just to give you an idea of workshops we offer, and we've done this with corporations, i.e. Goodwill Industries, Northwest Mutual. We've done this with nonprofits like Milwaukee Succeeds. So if you say we want to be a mentoring program, we want to expand a mentoring program, we want to improve our mentoring program, you might even say, I have no clue what a mentoring program is. Help me out, right? We can sit down and customize a kind of a program that worked for you, right? And it really makes sure that you have the tools needed to run a successful program, right? Next slide for me. And then finally, we work with corporations, like I mentioned, and there's different ways that look. We can, like I said, personalize a mentoring program. We can come on site and bring mentoring programs to you so your employees can learn more about the various options. There's a possibility to do like co-branding and things like that. So these are just some things that we do. I think that's the last one, Jai. You can click and let me know if I'm right or wrong. Yep, there we go. So that's a quick synopsis of who we are as an organization and what we do and how we kind of, work together. So I think I saw a couple of questions from me. I guess.
Yeah. Okay. I can jump right in there.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that was the perfect, high level summary that we were all looking for here. And I really enjoyed in your presentation that you layered in some really practical tips that I think all of us can walk away. So already this has been excellent time well spent in all of our day. So Danae is going to take us there. We're just going to go right for it with a good high yield question right here. And so Danae is asking, what must be true in order for our young Black and Brown youth to have a successful mentoring experience? What is that recipe? What are the ingredients that need to happen in there for that to happen?
Thank you, Danae. I know you was gonna come with the heat, so I love it though, right? But here's the truth, right? First of all, they gotta have an authentic, good experience with a mentor. Young Black and Latino boys first gotta have someone who's going to be true and authentic, right? That's first. They gotta come with, and how can I say this politely, because I know we're being recorded. They can't come with the super like sob story only. Like one of the things that we have to put in front of our young men is the ability for them to see past the 4-block radius in which sometimes they live. So their mentor has to be able to connect the dots around the narrative that all of our boys of color seem to always have to hear and deal with another perspective of that. As a mentor, I have to be LaNelle, right? I have to be able to share, I had a 2.4. No, I didn't do this, or I didn't do that, but I did do this, right? Like, we have to be able to set our young boys of color up to be able to see something different that they're always being told they are. Because a lot of times we assume that, and I'm gonna say, I said this earlier, that troubled youth are the ones that need mentors. So we seem to want to, in particular, our boys of color, treat mentorship almost as like a discipline thing. Like, oh, he's not doing well, he got in trouble, let's get him a mentor. No, we need them to have someone who's authentic enough to share the wide variety, open their perspective, allow them to also, for lack of better terms, be an emotional sponge for that young person. Like, we talk all the time about mental health with mentoring, and one of the things I think we lack is what that really means, because our young boys of color in particular aren't allowed to show all emotions. If they cry, they're being soft. You know, if they love too hard, then they're whipped. Like, or, you know, they got to either show they're tough, strong, or what. We got to allow rather those young men to be able to have an emotional sponge of someone who allows them to do that, and then be able to talk and dialogue about that. So again, being authentic, being open, being that emotional sponge is critical. And as a mentor, we have to open perspectives, and again, allow our young people to be able to see things in the world in a different space. Cultural competency tells me, though, as a mentor, I'm 50 years old. I may not relate to everything that 15-year-old is doing. So my cultural competency for me is, I can't just assume the way I did something when I was 15 is the same way I should tell this young man to do. I got to hear his story. I got to understand his environment. I need to know his journey may look different from mine, which is okay. Matter of fact, that should be happening, because one rule we tell all mentors, my job as a mentor is not to create a mini me. My job as a mentor is to help that young person find what they're destined to be and support that journey. So that would be, I hope I answered that, Danae. But that's how I would describe, in particular, young boys of color. It's important. And I want to be very transparent to everyone in the space. My mentor in high school was a white male. His name was Thomas Wild. And then Danae heard me talk this story before. And Thomas, my freshman year is when he came to my life. And it was his first year teaching at Riverside. First year as a teacher, matter of fact. Mr. Wild was a corny white guy. Listen, he walked funny, his haircut was terrible, his clothes was not cool, but he cared. He listened. He didn't try to fit in my circle. He just looked and made sure I had the tools I needed. If it's not for him, I don't go to Morehouse College. It was him that put that application in front of me and said, and if you all recall, I told you my age, that's when you had to do the application by hand, or put it in the typewriter and spin it up as you go, right? Remember them days? So if it wasn't for that, and I had two of the best parents in the world. It wasn't that they weren't thinking about college. Matter of fact, my mother went back to school, like I mentioned. She had just graduated 2 years prior. So college was a priority, but it was my mentor who guided. So it's not necessarily our young boys of color. I'm gonna add this into Danae's statement. Our young boys of color need both. They need someone that looks like them, who can share their experience, understand their experience, but then they need their network to encompass a variety as well. And I think that's also very important in understanding that journey, right? So I wanted to add that 2 cents in there as well.
That's perfect. Thank you, LaNelle. And I'm so appreciative that you brought in the story about your mentor from your freshman year, Mr. Tom Wild. What a great story that is. And, you know, a couple of other things that I'm picking up, you know, I love that you also spotlighted that we have to break the culture of thinking that mentorship equates with disciplinary action, that it's not the struggling kids, it's not the kids that are challenged by something that need a mentor. And that, I think that routes back to Dr. Young had put in the chat that every young person needs a mentor, period. And so thanks for kind of debunking that myth around that. And then I think again, your point around the goal of mentorship is not to relate to and not to get to work with your mini person, your mini me, that not let feeling like you lack common ground with a potential mentee to hold you back, that there's common ground everywhere, and you'll find those pieces of alignment in your mentor-mentee relationship. So I'm so glad that you elevated those points.
Let me add this to Leslie, because you actually, something I want to hit on, and I think it's so important in to my medical college family, as we're thinking about increasing, say, students of color, say at the medical college or in the health professions alone. Don't think about how you can get them to become a physician like you. Think about how you can expand their mind as this is even a possibility, right? Mm-hmm. The objective of mentorship is saying, I want to make sure you can see multiple opportunities. Even if you don't land here at medical college, at least you got a chance to see what that might feel like if I was a mentor for a young person. Because again, what happens in a lot of young people's minds, they're forced to only think into like very small boxes or categories. Like it's either, hey, either go to college or go in the workforce. Or so if a student is not, say, college ready, then we take college off the table and then only focus on, well, workforce, right? What if we treated all the kids in a way that says, hey, let's just make sure you're ready to go to college if you choose it. If you choose not to go to college, guess what? So be it, right? That's the greatness I think about mentoring, even though sometimes we think it's about getting them to be in the career we're on, especially as adult professionals. We're thinking we're mentoring to get them to be what we were or what we are. No, it's to find out what they're passionate about, but it's still exposing them to enough stuff that they have the right options or opportunities to choose what's in front of them.
Totally. Great. Jean, I see your excellent question in the chat, and I'm going to loop back to that one in just a minute. I'm going to try to build a bridge to that question. So LaNelle, we know, like you're like, as you've described, your organization and you and the work of Betty, you guys are the relationship makers. You're the drivers. You're the key partners. So could you share with our group today, when you think about partnership, what are some standards that you hold Mentorship Greater Milwaukee to as being a partner among all the agencies that you work with? And then there's part two is what do you look for in a partnership? But let's take the first one first. So what standards, how does Mentor Greater Milwaukee attempt to be the best partner possible in this work?
One, I'm thinking we're the experts, right? Even though like when people come to us about mentorship, I say all the time, I don't want to say I'm the expert. I want you to hear the things I say and then say, you know what, he may know more about this than me, because we just want to be a thought partner alongside of organizations to help build whatever it is they're trying to build. And so if we want to think about mentorship, relationship building, we feel we can offer some information around that. But we want to make sure we're not trying to be a know-it-all. I think that's the key thing to partnerships, is you can't be a know-it-all. You know, this is a situation literally where you cut the pie up. You know, when you order your pizza from Pizza Hut or Domino's, it don't just come in one thing, and then, you know, they cut it for you already. That's how we have to think as partners. We're going to come as a piece of the pie, not all of it, not the entire solution to it, but one piece of that, so we can have collective impact when it's all said and done. And I think that's how we approach what being a partner looks like and what a partner should feel like. So the second part of your question, say that part again.
Yeah, that was great too. I love that you're just highlighting kind of the humbleness that you bring to your relationships with your partners. So the second part is, so your organization, you bring again that humility and that humble attitude. What are you looking for in partnerships when your organization is making the decision to collaborate? What is that recipe, those secret ingredients that you're looking for that makes you said, yes, this is going to be a good collaboration?
One, someone has kind of open thinking or creative thinking, you know, because again, in particular for us at Mentor, when we come to the table, we're hoping organizations don't kind of have this set path they want to walk on. We want them to be creatively thinking what this could look like. So when we throw a recommendation out or a different type of idea, they're like, wow, I never thought of that. That may work, or this could work, or we just want organizations, because I think to be a partner, again, coming to the table, you know, you want to be able to say, you're bringing this newness to us that we didn't have. And that newness can help us then create something we never thought of that may have a bigger impact. When you're talking about transforming lives, in particular lives of young people, we can't continue to do the things the same way we've always done it, right? That's why we're having system changes, right? And me and Danae were just talking about this a little bit yesterday, right? System changes is the key critical piece. And that's what partnership is. We don't just open the book and go, hey, this is what we did 7 years ago. Well, guess what? 7 years ago, you know, we didn't understand the youth voice actually should be at the table with stuff we keep, you know, so we have to be willing to be creative thinkers, open to new ideas in order to hit the bigger or better results that we're hoping for in the end.
Right on. Yes, I love that. I love that idea of thinking about system change and changing structures, changing the status quo. It's going to get us further. So coming back to Jean's question here, kind of putting our MCW hat on and knowing that there's MCW representation here on the call, how can MCW best partner with your organization, and what musings and what ideas? And I know I've been in a couple conversations with you about that, but yeah, what think pie in the sky, like what opportunities do you see?
Well, first, the sheer volume of volunteers, right? Potential volunteer mentors, right? Whether students, whether employees, whether professors, the whole umbrella of health sciences, health professions exists under the medical college, right? How do we, again, put those in front of young people in conversation? How do we tell those stories, those narratives around how people got there, and then provide the right support? So ideally, I would love, like, medical college just to kind of really grab onto this idea of being a mentoring organization, not just students at the medical college, right? But what are we starting to talk about the middle school kids or the fourth grade kids? Think about this. And one of the data points that we deal with on the youth side all the time is third grade reading scores. Mm-hmm. We know to be you know, in the health field, reading is going to be very critical, right? Critical thinking. What if we started, you know, a partnership as young as second, third graders, working, you know, in a profession sense, but also literacy being a key element, right? And showing how it can be fun. Because I think I never forget. I was talking to somebody about going to medical school, a young person we were working with, and the first thing they said in mind was like, that's too much school. I don't want to go, you know, I'm not about to do all of that. But I think hearing the other side of that is, well, I have fun doing this, or I like doing this. Like, people, if you don't know a doctor, then you would never know those parts of the stories. So how do you get a second, third graders to see the fun side of what they do as in a medical profession versus just the scary side of doing another 6 years or 8, whatever, because I don't know how long y'all go to school. I swear, when we talk about outside of the y'all circle, we think y'all go to school for another 12 years. It'd be like, I can't do it. Y'all go to school for like another 12 years to be a doctor. No way, I can't. But how do we get, like, again, truth in front? Again, medical college has manpower. There's so many storylines that can occur. And if we put those in front of young people, we're opening up minds to see new opportunities that aren't as complex as those young minds think, right? So I think that would be, and I know it sounds simple, but it's hard to get adults to do this. Like, the first thing I hear is, I don't have the time. I tell people all the time, if I got 8 kids between me and my wife, 4 grandkids, and I can still mentor kids to this day, sit on multiple boards, you got time. And if we want to change our city, the only way we're going to do that is kind of this effort that shows I care about your tomorrow. So here's what I'm going to do today.
Beautiful. Yes, 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 yes to all of that. So I mean, these questions coming in on the chat, I had one that was directly messaged to me, but it's totally relating to what you were just saying about putting the truth in front of our youth, and it's okay if you're that mentor that doesn't know everything about X, Y, or Z, or about that youth's dreams and their hopes for their future. And so the question coming in is a great one. what do you recommend? And this would be for an individual mentor. What would you recommend that an individual mentor do if they don't have the knowledge or the right answer? Like, I don't know how long medical school is, with the mentee that they're working with. How should they navigate that when they're like, I don't know a lot about the pursuits that my mentee wants to pursue?
I love that question, because I think the myth about being a mentor is you have to be a know-it-all. The myth is people think as a mentor, I'm supposed to be able to answer every question that my mentee puts in front of me. And that's absolutely false. Our job as a mentor is to speak to what we know. The rest of our job is to build a network for the young person. I got a quick example I give, and we share this all the time. Everyone here, in your kitchen cabinet, think about where you have all your spices. Think about your spice drawer, cabinet, whatever you got, right? And in your spice cabinet, usually in the front, there are things that you go to all the time when you're cooking, right? Salt, pepper. For me, it's slap your mama Cajun and garlic powder, right? That's right there in the front. Every time I'm cooking, I'm grabbing it, right? Then I want you to think about what you got in the back of that spice cabinet. Nutmeg, basil, cinnamon, things that you grab every once in a while. Like, you think about holidays, you need the nutmeg because it's pie season, right? I know I got nutmeg. I used to think all the time, my mom used to bake or make something. She'd be like, look in the spice rack. I'd be like, I'll look in the front. She'd be like, no, look all the way in the back. I got something. That's what a mentor network looks like. So think about yourself as a mentor being salt and pepper or being nutmeg. Basically what that means is, as I build my young person up, I create a world for them where they know they can come to me all the time for certain things. But if I build their network correctly and help them build a network, they know nutmeg is the person they call maybe once a year, once every other year, but they're always there for them when they need it. A mentor does not need to be a know-it-all, right? The job is to help them find the answers the same way you would find the answers. Reaching out, Google, introducing them to someone. That's the key to being a good mentor. It's not about, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. No. It's about being able to control what you can and tapping onto somebody as a new resource when you need to. So that's very important to understand. You do not have to be a know-it-all. You do not.
Yep, that's great. I really appreciate the spice analogy, and just to kind of double down on kind of what you're saying here, that one of your tools in your mentor toolkit is to build that network with your mentee. Again, not that you have to know everything. So I think that's such a key feature of a mentor that you call out there. Carol and Kim, thank you so much for these great comments in the chat. LaNelle, I know you're focused here. So Carol is talking about great partnership opportunities between MATC and Mentor Greater Milwaukee and MCW, and just again to build that diverse talent pipeline into healthcare careers. So thank you for that. And Kim is calling out the AARP does some walks with the docs, where individuals can sign up and people can register and go for a group walk with somebody in the healthcare professions and just learn more about it. So thank you both for sharing those excellent thoughts and resources. So for me, I have to go into a question. The researcher in me has to come out here, and I zoned right in on your slides, LaNelle, when you're talking about data. Data to demonstrate impact. And I'm wondering if you could just talk a couple of minutes around like the importance of data, and what sorts of data is really meaningful in an organization like yours, again, to demonstrate that impact, and how can academic institutions, how can researchers help your agency and those that you partner with get that high yield important data to build a compelling case for mentorship funding and mentorship programs in the future?
So let me start here and say, for the first thing, in particular in the work we do, is really around the qualitative data, right? And there was a study that was just done. DPI did a survey with young people throughout the state, and one of the the number one thing that young people said that they needed in the schools was relationships. Relationships around with their teachers or those in the school, right? Now, here's the thing that we unfortunately, and Leslie, you'll probably understand this a lot, we get caught up in not understanding how to use the voice, and we got to see other stuff. When we launched the Department of Black and Latino Male Achievement with MPS, of course, the top 3 data pieces that everybody kept saying, well, we got to do this: college graduation, increased GPA, improved attendance, right? That was first. But what we learned by actually going out and interviewing over 1,200 Black and Latino male students in the district was what they were telling us was, how you think I'm going to improve my attendance when I don't even like my teachers? What reason will I have to come to school and get a better than a D grade when my teacher doesn't even like me or doesn't understand where I'm coming from or what I had to do even to get to school today, even though I was late? Data has to be used very, very effectively and not within a bubble. You can't expect to see, in this case, when we were with Black and Latino Male Achievement, we weren't going to improve graduation rate in 2 years. It was going to take some time to do that. But the data we had to use around that was really what young people were saying their needs were. Then we had to figure out what the tool was to then put it in front of them to do that. So whether that was the right curriculum, whether, training teachers, then we can start looking at, oh, attendance is improving after 3 years because we saw this happen, right? Or this change. GPAs were improving because we saw this. I'll tell you one data piece that we were very happy of that we saw in 1 year. We actually saw a decrease in the number of suspensions of our students that were in our program. At this time, they were in our class. But again, it was a small, but we were excited because they started to tell us, well, y'all told us I couldn't fight no more to come talk to y'all when I was angry, right? And so you were like, you needed somebody to talk to. How do we make sure we're letting teachers know this is what that student needs, right? So that's how we use data. Qualitative for us is probably the most important. Some of the other pieces that we have seen, for example, 55% students who have a mentor in their life are more likely to graduate or not skip school. I'm sorry, not skip school. There was 130% of students who had a mentor in their life most likely to have a leadership role because of their mentor. Those were based on little things, again, word of mouth, then what we were seeing at the school side, in this case, school, because school is a great way to collect data, right? When you're able to answer those questions. So that's how we were able to use data. That's how we try to see data. We're in this huge kick, thanks to Milwaukee Succeeds, about really making sure youth voice is critical to everything we're doing, right? Like, no longer can you just say, this is what kids want, and ain't no kids sitting next to you, right? To confirm that, right? They got to be like, yeah, that's what I told him. That's exactly what we said. So how do we make sure we're doing more of that, where their voice isn't going to be just something that we just tokenize, but we're actually allowing them to have influence on the things that we're trying to do and trying to accomplish. So
yeah, that's so great. Like the tokenizing comment about don't just ask for feedback and then do nothing about it just to check that box. That's great. We have another question coming in, and this is such an important one. LaNelle, can you speak to the importance of sticking with you, if you are a mentor, sticking with those relationships long-term and being there for the long haul, because so many of our youth are used to people leaving them. And just speak into the importance of that sustainability of the mentoring-mentee relationship.
Absolutely. So going back to data, one thing that we found out, right, is if a mentor was with their young person a minimum of 1 year at least and spent a minimum of 1.5 hours a month, we see that young person improve in certain categories, right? What we find is young people get, and this is where we talk about relationships with adults. A lot of kids, sometimes don't want to mentor because they think you're an adult that's going to fall out their life anyway, right? You come in, you speak this game, oh, I got you, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then something changes in the adult life, and then we kind of push the kid to the side. That does more damage, if not harm, than not having you at all show up. So it's very important is when you sign up, you're committing into the entirety. That's why a part of our training is closure. We also want to make sure the young person understands, hey, this program is a year long, you know, July is, you know, kind of our end date. And then determining what the relationship looks like after that, right? You have to be able to understand what that does. And then it goes back to my kitchen cabinet concept. When that year's up, do you become basil or nutmeg where you let the young person know like, hey, when you need me, give me a call, and they call you up on it? Are you salt and pepper programs up and you have a continued relationship? Because again, the idea is if you flake on a young person and they are used to adults flaking on them or faking on them, that does more harm long-term, because then there's no trusting relationship develop outside of the home potentially. Then they, you know, they keep that same mindset and don't have the respect, right? And here's a quick thing I want to share with everybody really quick. This is what we call a mentoring mindset. Mentoring mindset to us really is defined as when you're out and you see young people, even if you're someone you're not mentoring, you're at Walmart, there's a young person behind the register. Even if they look like they're having the worst day in the world, you be joy into their life for that moment. Simply saying, hey, how's your day going? Hey, are you in school? Like, say something. Rebuild. Adults are here to support. Because sometimes in those situations, we don't know what that young person is going through. They probably scanned out, what, 50 people and not one of them spoke to them. And 40 of them complained about something. You can be the one that just gives a little joy, if not for a second, even if they don't give a big response, even if it's just simple like, you know, they grunt, you know, teenagers grunt now, you know, that's fine. You plant a seed of support and then allow that young person to walk away with that. So
that's awesome. This has been like, I feel like such an informative session. I'm learning so much about mentorship, and you know, the data that you bring about there's something magical about that 1 year mark, that stick in it for that 1 year, and the outcomes for that mentee, that individual, can be really transformative. And then I love how you just bring up as a best practice, like on the onset of putting up parameters potentially if they're needed, and expectations around the length of the relationship. And then when it's over, it's not really over, that mentorship takes on different phases and different fields and different looks. And I think that's applicable to youth mentorship and so many forms of mentorship that probably all of us experience in our personal or professional lives. So I love those as just best practices. So we're kind of nearing the end here. I'm always amazed by how fast an hour goes. And so I think my final question here for you, LaNelle, is what would you like people to leave today with? Knowing, what would you like us to all know about your organization? How can all of us become champions in speaking about your work in our networks and in our communities? What would you just like some parting thoughts to be for all of us to take with from today's conversation?
absolutely. One, there's space for everybody to be a mentor. One of my dreams for mentor one day is that every young person will have a mentor in their life, and eventually have a mentor in every aspect of their life. So a mentor at school, a mentor at work, a mentor in the community, a mentor wherever, right? I think what I want this group to take away and help me advocate for is how to become a mentor. And please, I don't want people thinking, I don't have 4 hours a week to mentor. There are programs, we're partnering right now, for example, with MPS. We're going to be doing programs at 6 middle schools. We're only asking for an hour to an hour and a half a month, once a month. So there's opportunity for people to be mentoring somewhere, right? And I think that's what I want people to really understand. Coaching is a form of mentoring. If you play sports, robotics programs, form of mentoring. Being a tutor at the local library or the Boys and Girls Club around kids, those are opportunities to mentor young people. The key is try to get in front of the same young person for at least, again, that 1 year and have an impact. There is a space for everyone. And it's just that we have to commit to that. If we want to help our young people have a world they can be proud of and help eliminate some of the negativity we see, we have to be a part of that by being the role models and the examples that they get to see on a regular basis. We can't criticize what we're not willing to replace. We can't talk about all the negative elements if we don't want to be the positive one that steps in to kind of showcase and be support. So, so that would be what I would want to say. I want people to walk away with, that you can be a mentor. There's an opportunity for you to kind of share, quote unquote, your journey, and then help another young person along their journey. So
perfectly said. And I know that what you just articulated, I know that sums up your long-term vision for Mentor Greater Milwaukee, is that every youth would have a mentor. LaNelle, it's no surprise to me that this is exactly what I thought it would be, and that this was just such a delightful hour of just learning, of understanding the work that you do, and coming to, again, know how all of us can contribute to supporting your organization. But even if it's not with your organization, how we can all be spreaders of joy, how we can all be mentors to those of us around us. I would like to just bring everybody's attention in the chat. Jessica has plunked in our survey, our evaluation survey. Please consider filling that out. And just to encourage everyone here that you can make a difference. We have a QR code in the slide presentation here. Please consider donating and supporting Mentor Greater Milwaukee. Right here's this particular slide is our QR code. So if this presentation inspires you, again, please consider giving to MGM as they support our young people in our communities. And then I also just want to invite everyone to attend our next spotlight, which will be November 30th at 4 p.m. Via Zoom, where we're going to spotlight Frieden's Food Pantries. So thank you all for joining us for today, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.